Here are 12 tests of mobility to analyze where you have opportunity for growth. We're going to look at the feet and ankles, the hips, and the mid-back to see what you could focus on to improve your mobility. Let's get started. The first test is called the 5-inch ankle mobility test. You're going to measure a distance of roughly 5 inches, which is going to be about a fist and the thumb, or you can measure it with a ruler if you want, but about 5 inches. You're going to place your toe there. And then what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring our knee directly over our toes to touch the wall without letting the heel lift up. So this wall has a little bit of a catch here. So I'm just about there without letting the heel lift. You want to be roughly there. If you do this test and you're here, you're like 5 inches away from it, 3 inches away from it, that means you have a lot of opportunity to improve your ankle mobility. Some people will cheat this test by either letting the foot point out and coming inward or going outward. You want to make sure you're going directly over your toes as you test this. And again, about 5 inches is a fist and a thumb. You can also measure it with a ruler if you want. That is the first test. You pass this test if from 5 inches from the wall, you can touch your knee to the wall without letting your heel lift off the ground. 2 and 3 are going to be heel sitting and toe sitting. So you're just going to sit on your heels like this. What we're looking for is that the toes come together, the heels are apart, and there's no space between the ground and your ankles. If you can't get into this position or it's super painful, you're up here, or your feet are going some other pattern other than slightly out, that means you fail this test. Passing is just like this, toes together, heels apart. That is test 2. Test number 3 is going to be the same kind of position. It's just a toe sitting position. So if you can get your full big toe, or all of your toes really, touching the ground, then you're good. If your toe is suspended off the ground like this, or if you're unable to sit in this position, then that would be a fail. Passing is heels pointing roughly straight vertical towards the sky, and full coverage of the toe knuckle on the ground. Those are our tests for foot and ankle mobility. For hip mobility, first we're going to test external rotation. So you're going to lay on your back with the camera by your feet. You're going to cross one leg over. So I'm crossing my right ankle across my left knee, just above. I'm going to keep my hips down, so my left hip has to stay down. And then I'm just going to relax my leg out. And so we're really going to use the camera as the judge for this. But I'm looking to see that each side is about the same. So that's my right hip. If I switch to my left hip, do the same exact thing. We're looking to see, is it roughly the same? Again, the biggest thing is to make sure that this hip doesn't come up. Because if I let my hip lift up, then this test is useless. So I have to keep this hip down. And then I'm looking side to side. Is it roughly the same on each side? You would fail this test if you notice that one side is like this, or if both sides are like that, really. You want to be about a fist and a thumb from the ground, roughly. There's no right or wrong. Really, we're looking for symmetry side to side. That's the first hip test. The next hip mobility test is a 90-90 stretch. So you're going to get in a bent position like this. I like to tuck my toes back. You don't have to keep the foot out. Some people like to keep the foot out. I like to tuck the toes back like this. And then all we're looking at is there a difference from side to side? Are you able to stay upright or with good posture as you go towards that front leg or the back leg? A more advanced version of this would be to see if you can pick up the back leg while still staying tall. So that would be hip internal rotation. We're looking at external and internal rotation of the hips. Once you've done one side, you keep your feet right where they are, and you just switch to the other side. Same thing. Noticing, is there a difference from side to side? Can I pick up that back leg, still stay roughly, tall? And is there a difference from side to side? If you notice a difference, make a note. Oh, it's harder to lift my right foot up on this stretch. Internal rotation of my right hip is harder, for example. That would be one option. Oh, my right hip is tighter when I come down like this. I can feel, it just feels tighter. Okay, that's a note. The only fail would be to notice asymmetry. So just make a note of that. The next hip mobility test is a couch stretch. You're going to get your knee to touch the wall or be very close to the wall as your bottom leg is up the wall. And then I'm going to come up onto my foot, and then I'm going to come totally upright. This is probably going to be really tight on a lot of people. The pass is if you can make your knee, foot, and your butt all touch the wall. This is a high level of mobility, so most people are going to fail this. You would fail if it's too painful and you can't hold it or whatever. But this is a pass for hip flexor mobility. The couch stretch, obviously, do both sides. Make sure you're able to do this. And the butt doesn't necessarily have to touch the wall. As long as it's touching your foot, you're good. But think back. The knee is back, the foot's back, and my hips are back. And I can feel a really good stretch in my hip flexor, in my quads. That is the couch stretch hip mobility test. The final hip mobility test is just a hinge. So you're going to stand sideways to the camera, and you're just going to bend forward. Now, this is going to tell us a lot. This is also in the coordination assessment, but we're just looking to see that you're able to maintain a flat back. So my spine is flat. I'm not rounding or arching crazy. You know, rounding is more common. So I have a flat back. I'm not rounding. And I'm able to get my hands past my knees. This would be sufficient to say that we have good hamstring mobility, good hip control, hip mobility. If you can't do this, or a lot of people will round like this and get it, but we're rounded, so we're not actually testing your hip mobility, we're testing your spine mobility, which we don't want to do. So you need to be able to keep your hips out, butt pointing towards the sky, and a flat back, and hands past the knees. That is a pass. Anything that doesn't look like this would be a fail. For our thoracic mobility or mid-back mobility test, you're going to start laying on your back, and you're just going to bring your arms overhead. We're looking to see that you're able to get your hands onto the ground, your arms onto the ground, without arching your back like crazy. So this is going to test your lat mobility. If I try to go up overhead and my back starts to arch, meaning come off the ground, that's a problem. We want to keep the low back in contact with the ground, hands on the ground overhead. That would be a pass. Anything else would be a fail. That is for the lats. For the chest, we're going to do the same thing. Just interlock the hands behind the head, still on our backs. And we're just going to see if we can get the elbows to touch the ground. This is looking at chest mobility. If it's super tight, or if you're not able to get your elbows to the ground, that would be a sign of chest tightness. That would be a fail. As long as you can get your elbows to the ground without much tightness or strain, then that is a pass. For external rotation at my shoulder, I'm going to place my elbows up at shoulder height, and I'm going to try to get my hands to touch the ground. This would be a pass. My hands are touching the ground. My hands, my wrists, everything touching the ground. This would be a fail. Anything that's like off the ground would be a fail. If I have to arch my back to get them down, that would be a fail. We want to see low back in contact with the ground, hands on the ground. That is a pass. The next mobility test is a rotation test. So thoracic rotation. I'm going to bring my knees up to, about 90 degrees or so. Not super, super important. We just don't want the hips to rotate or move. From here, I'm going to open up towards the opposite side. I want to see that both shoulders are making contact with the ground as my knees stay together. If when you open, your knees open as well, your hips open as well, then we lack the ability to rotate at our thoracic spine. I want to feel a stretch in my mid-back. Obviously, I'm going to test both sides. My knees are up and tight. I'm rotating the opposite way. I can get both shoulders to touch the ground. A mild stretch in the mid-back, but nothing crazy. And then you're going to note if you feel something different or intense, or if you're unable to touch both shoulders to the ground with the knees and feet together. The last test in this mobility assessment is going to be lateral bending or side-to-side bending. So you're going to sit your butt back into a child's pose. And then from here, we're just going to swing our arms to one side. Notice if you feel any super tightness in your side, in your lats, or in your obliques, or anything else, QL. And then go to the other side. And we want to stay fully rounded. We don't want you to come up. We don't want you to go around. We're trying to stay fully down and side bend.
And we're just looking to kind of learn about our bodies, right? It should be somewhat symmetrical. You should be able to go pretty far side to side. But we're not necessarily concerned about how far. We're just concerned about if there's a difference or an asymmetry from side to side. So those are the 12 mobility tests. Make a note. Did you pass? Did you fail? Anything that you felt. Oh, this showed me that my hips are really tight. This showed me that my mid-back is really tight. Make a note of what you notice. Share it with your coach so that you identify opportunities for growth.